But now to DeKalb County, where you might be surprised to learn the number of people who are living in motels. Are they considered homeless? If so, why? If not, why not? I'm joined now by our senior investigative reporter, Rebecca Lindstrom, working on this important story. Rebecca, this is all based on a study that you've looked into. What did the study find?
So, I mean, going to your initial question, are they considered homeless?
Yeah.
And I think the argument that they're trying to make in this study is that absolutely yes, because these people do not have permanent housing. They are paying week to week. They don't have tenants' rights. So if something upsets the owner of the hotel, there isn't really a process to try to combat that or say, oh, no, you misunderstand. Let me tell you this. So they'll just be out on the street with, just a moment's notice. So when you start thinking about the instability involved, then they say that really is being homeless, when you're just kind of moving from place to place and all you really possess is what you can put in a couple bags and take with you should you have to move again. And so this study that was commissioned by the DeKalb County Board of Commissioners, they spent about $100,000 to do it. And it's the first of its kind for DeKalb County at least. And they went to 42 different hotels, these extended stay hotels, knocked on the doors, and then sat down with these families and individuals to survey them and just ask them,
Wow.
Tell us how you ended up here. Why are you here? What would it take for you to get into more permanent housing? And so, through all of that, what they found is that there are like 3.5 more children that are school aged living in these motels than even the school district knew about. And there are programs that can try to help provide additional transportation, educational resources if you are listed as unhoused. But if the district doesn't know, then those kids don't get access to those resources. And I think what they really found was a lot of those kids weren't even attending school because this situation was so transient. And these kids had already been in multiple schools. So, why sign them up for yet another school district
Right.
when we might only be in this hotel for a week, or we don't know where we're going to go tomorrow? And so that was one of the things I know that really touched some of the commissioners' heads and hearts and made them say, we've got to take a closer look at this and figure out what we can do.
It breaks my heart when we're hearing about the kids because you're kind of opening them up to a cycle at this point. If you grow up in the motel, are you going to be stuck to living that life, as you grow up too?
And I don't want to misspeak on the actual statistic, but I know one of the things that was discussed was the high percentage of individuals that they surveyed that had been in motels as children and were now adults.
Right.
So they just never got the job that allowed them the stability or the work life, pieces of the puzzle put together to get the stability. And since that was a fallback that they were already aware of, it was a fallback that they kind of returned to. So you do have a lot of cycle issues here going on.
Look, Rebecca, a hotel, motel, inn, whatever you want to, it is not cheap. It's got to add up if you're staying there for months on end. How does that compare to what you'd paid if you were moving into an apartment?
Absolutely. And that is one of the things that they looked at is, most of these families are kind of paying that weekly rate. And so when you add up 4 weeks into 1 month, you're paying about $1,700 to stay there. And they found that the average price for a 1-bedroom apartment in DeKalb County would be about $100 less. So if you were in a traditional apartment, could you afford the rent? I mean, theoretically, yes. Here's the challenge, though. I'm a data junkie. I love data. I think it comes along with being an
The
investigator.
numbers don't lie.
But they also say you can make numbers say whatever you want. And so that's what I love about data, though, is that you can look at it and then you can say, hey, how do I interpret this and what do I really feel like the truth is in these numbers? This survey of the respondents, most of them, the largest portion of them said, look, if we could just get assistance with that first and last month's rent or the security deposit, we'd be able to pick up the rent from there. But the context of that data, after doing our own reporting, I did a series of stories on affordable housing, and one of the things that we looked at was the role of your credit score in getting into an apartment. And if you don't have a certain credit score, a lot of apartment complexes just aren't even considering your application. And even some affordable housing projects that are tax funded still have a minimum credit score that isn't realistic in line with what the people who need to be able to get into those units actually have. And so, yeah, we can say, let's create some programs and give them the first and last month's rent.
Yeah.
There are some programs that actually do that. But these people are still responsible for finding the unit that's going to take them so that they can apply for the program. So I think DeKalb County and any community that really wants to tackle this issue is going to have to go a bit deeper. They're going to have to say, can we build some relationships with landlords who are willing to take the risk? Maybe we'll give a 6-month rent guarantee. Let's see if we can get this person into that unit and really show that stability so that then, you as the landlord know you're not going to get burned and have someone that you're going to spend the next 2 or 3, 6 year, trying to
Right.
get out of the unit. And then we've got to connect them with credit recovery programs, bill recovery programs, the things that are really going to enable them to have the tools they need to take that next step and then maintain the stability going forward. So yes, financially, maybe could they afford that if they got that upfront financial assistance? Possibly, but there's going to be more involved to really making success. I'd hate for some program to exist and then we look at the data of the success rate and we say, oh, well, I guess that wasn't the solution, and then we back away from it. We've got to be more holistic in the approach.
I can't imagine it's just a DeKalb County issue. I heard Senator Elizabeth Warren on CNBC just yesterday saying that nationwide we're some 3 million housing units short of where we should be. Do you think other counties are going to take DeKalb's lead here in our area and say we need to do something as well?
Atlanta has been very aggressive. I give them props. They get a lot of criticism for some of their programs, maybe because they don't reach the goals and the bars that they set, or we look at some of the funding and could it be used a little bit more efficiently? Perhaps. But Atlanta really has taken a good leadership role in trying to attack this from many different angles. There's still always more work that can be done. I think we see a lot of the unhoused kind of centralized in the city of Atlanta. But I think some of our surrounding counties are also going to need to take a look at it. They call this the hidden homeless because we're not seeing them sleep on the streets.
Right.
So because they are inside a house or, a hotel, we're not really thinking about their need and these bigger picture issues, and therefore we're not creating the programs or even acknowledging that they exist within our community. But I think any county, if it were to actually take a look and start knocking on those doors, is going to find more of these people living in their community than they realize.
It's an interesting debate, Rebecca, and I know it's far from over, so you'll stay on top of the county as they come up with these solutions, hopefully.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much.